Inshallah, if you have brought your kids with you, inshallah, you can check beside you and make sure they're sitting beside you. I came all the way from Canada for them, I think. So make sure they're beside you, inshallah. Secondly, it's always an honor and a challenge to speak in front of other ulama. And it's an honor for me that Maulana Sayyid Abul Qasim Nizi Sahib is here today. We should be benefiting from him actually, as opposed to someone like me. I had the honor of meeting him last year in Toronto when he came for Muharram, and I asked him to please, first of all, accept my apology that I'm speaking in front of him, and to include this haqir in your du'as, inshallah, for his tawfiq and the health of his family, inshallah. One salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. رحم الله من قرأ الفاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي لا يبلغ مدحته القائلون ولا يحصي نعماءه العادون ولا يؤدي حقه المجتهدون، الذي لا يدركه بعد الحمم ولا يناله غرس الفطن، ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين، حبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا والشفيع ذنوبنا، سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد. صل على محمد وعجل فرجهم، وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين، لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين، صاحب العصر والزمان، خليفة الرحمن، إمام الإنس والجان، ولعن الله أعداهم أجمعين إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله وقوله الحق. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ولقد خلقنا الإنسان في كبد. صلوا على محمد وعلى محمد. Alone with thee alone, examining our relationship with our Creator has been our ongoing topic. Tonight is lecture number 5. We have, from day number 1, tried to establish the importance of Khuda Shanasi, understanding Allah, having ma'rifat of Allah, making Allah the base of every act of worship that we do. I mentioned in the very first day that the Imams and the Prophets together, collectively, their job was to bring us to Allah, to make Allah ma'aloom for us, known to us. And they became a wasila for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in the process, what ends up happening is that we end up falling in love with the wasila, and we didn't reach the maqsad of that wasila yet. So we're able to prove the beauty of the day of Ghadir to non-Shi'as. We're able to prove Imam Husayn's mission to non-Shi'as. We're able to prove the ghaybat of our Imam to non-Shi'as, but we cannot prove God's existence to ourselves yet. And this is a problem. The base of Islam is the base of Tawheed. Everything is based on that base. And as I mentioned yesterday, If the base is rocky, if the base is doubtful, if the base is unstable, and we keep piling floor after floor after floor onto that building, eventually that building will collapse. If the base is strong, you can put 40 floors on that building. I don't care. It's a solid, stable building. And no matter how difficult the wind comes, the wind of kufr, the wind of the west, the wind of shaitan, trying to knock down this building, the base is so strong that it uphold itself through all those winds. So this topic becomes very, very important. We have now talked about everything from the idea of living tawheed. We talked about sifat al-dhatiyah, sifat al-fa'liyah. We talked about Burhan al-Nazm and Burhan al-Wujud yesterday. We talked about all these things, mashallah. And we are moving ever so closely, bit by bit, moving along like a link chain, adding one more link to our chain. Today, we look at two aspects. One is submission, and one is hardships in Islam. When we look at history, and those of you who were there today for the Jummah Khudra, I mentioned this briefly. I often, wherever I go, I often tell my kids and my youth, whoever are listening, and my elders of course as well, to make it a point to study history, the history of Islam specifically. If studying the lives of the Ahl Bayt is difficult for you, at least start off with studying the mission of our Holy Prophet. The 23 years that he spent in establishing Islam across his prophethood, the 63 years of the life of Amir al-Mu'mineen, these two aspects in history is enough for us. Countless lessons are there with his prophethood and our first Imam's life. If you examine the life of Amir al-Mu'mineen, for example, and then they have Faraz Nasheed, right? You say in Urdu and in Farsi as well. Ups and downs you have, the peaks and the valleys you have. Amir al-Mu'mineen was no different. You think about his difficulty initially when he accepted Islam in that Da'watul Ashira. You talk about every role that he had in every war during the Prophet's prophethood. You talk about the difficulty of Ghadir and Saqifa. You talk about the door of the three Khulafa. You talk about his 3 civil wars. And then his Shahada. This is one man's life. Facing multiple enemies within and without. Seeing the hardships of his beloved Prophet. And that, of course, coming on to him as well. It's enough for us to be able to pick up lessons for our own life when we examine the life of the Mu'mineen. There's a waqia, there's a story with him and Kumail ibn Ziyad, who's very famously the one who's named after Duray Kumail. Initially we talk about submission, because there's levels, right? We understand Allah, we have ma'rifat of Allah, we have the hiss of Allah, we have this dark of Allah, we have this understanding of Allah, and once that fortifies, then we submit to Allah. And when we submit to Allah, everything Allah says, we say labbaik. Submission is very key. Let me give you a few examples from the life of Amir al-Mu'mineen about the importance of submission and some scary historical events of individuals who on the outside looked like a true abd of Allah, but really was not the abd of Allah. He was one day walking with Kumail ibn al-Mu'mineen as Abu Durub Hijri Muhammad wa ala Muhammad Christians. And I really want all of you to understand what I'm trying to establish in the beginning of tonight's lecture. It's crucial that you don't pick and choose what you want to understand and listen to. Listen to the whole thing, inshallah. If there are questions, I'm here all night. Come and ask me questions. Don't ask anybody else. Ask me. He's walking with Kumail in the middle of the night. And Kumail and Maulana Ali walk by a house where the window is slightly open. Inside, the individual is reading the Quran in a beautiful voice. Now Kumail doesn't say a word. But he stares at the house, and for a moment he thinks to himself, but wow, what a muttaqi, pious man. In the middle of the night when nobody is awake, he's reciting the Quran in that beautiful tone of his. Without saying a single word to Amir al-Mu'mineen, they walk past the house. It's Maula Ali that turns to Kumair and says, Kumair, don't be impressed by the Quran that you hear from this person's window. إِنَّهُ مِنْ أَهْلِ النَّارِ. This individual is from the hellfire. Kumair's confused. How can it be Maula Ali? Later on, during the war of Nahrawan, when Amir al-Mu'mineen fought the Khawarij movement, it's a battlefield. There's dead bodies everywhere. At the end of the war, when the battlefield is filled with dead bodies, Amir al-Mu'mineen calls Kumair. Says, Kumair, come with me. He walked to a body, and Mu'mineen puts the point of his Zulfaqar onto the chest of the dead body of this individual. He says, what? إِنَّهُ مِنْ أَهْلِ النَّارِ. That same individual you were impressed by that night we were walking, this is him right here. I mean, what's the point of you reciting the Quran in the middle of the night to only stand up against a wali of Allah at that moment? If you look at these same Khawarij movements, the same Kharijis, and when I describe this, I get a little bit scared. When there was discussion about a war now, the war of Nahrawan, Amir al-Mu'mineen sends Abdullah ibn Abbas, one of his governors in the beginning of his Khilafat, to go and talk to them. Maybe, there's some sulah, maybe we can avoid war. Ibn Abbas goes to the head of the Nahrawan, the head of the Kharijis, discusses a few things, comes back and says, Mullah, they want to go to war. The other companions approach Abdullah ibn Abbas and say, I want you to describe how they look. Who are these people that refuse to sit down with Amir al-Mu'mineen and come to an agreement with him? Tell me who they are. Describe them to me. Look at the way Ibn Abbas describes those individuals who are fighting against Amir al-Mu'mineen. He says, I went there. He says their knees are completely worn out from sujood of Allah. Their forehead is zakhmi, scarred from the sujood of Allah. Their lips are dry from the dhikr of Allah. Their stomachs are touching their backs from fasting in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Who are these people? Individuals responsible for the shahadat of Amir al-Mu'mineen. So I say this with complete and absolute responsibility. There's an alim mawjood here. Worship isn't enough. Submissive worship is what we're after. True ata'at of Allah is what we're after. That only comes when we understand Allah. There have been many individuals, sorry to say, many individuals who were worshipping Allah. The ones who were facing Imam on the day of Ashura, many of them were Hafiz al-Quran, as you know. We've heard all this before. And then we have a hadith, again, scary hadith, to tell us that as these individuals are reading the Quran is sending la'anat back onto them. We need to be submissive. And that means that in every halat, in every state, in every condition, we are radi with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's the most difficult part. As long as things are going good, the job is stable, the wife is listening, the kids are listening, everything is great. Salat and Saum and Khums is no problem. The moment that things get a little bit rocky, that's when our iman becomes tested. And what I want to spend most of my time on tonight is this idea of submission through hardships in this dunya. We don't know sometimes our own level of submission until we go through a hardship. The example I gave a couple of nights ago, and most of you weren't here. So let me repeat that example. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad, please. You have a swimming pool, and the swimming pool is completely still. The water isn't moving. There's dirt in the bottom of the swimming pool. At first glance, the water seems clean to you. There's nothing inside. You can't see the dirt. Why? The water is still. The moment somebody, a big guy like me, jumps inside the pool, now the waves start going, right? And now all the dirt from the bottom of the pool rises to the top. And you realize at that moment how dirty the pool was to begin with. Until those water waves are rocking, you could tell how dirty it is. When it's completely still, everything is fine. As long as our life is still, no waves, we don't see the dirt inside of us. The moment the wavy aspect comes in our life, then the true test comes about. Many people ask me, why does Allah choose me for all these hardships? One struggle after one, struggle after one. It seems like after I'm done one test, another one pops up right away. Let's understand what's happening here. Let's try to focus on this idea of this dunya. Before I continue, I need you to please move up a little bit. There's a little bit of traffic jam by the door. With one loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad, please.
Salli ala Muhammad wa ala. Put it here for you. Sorry about this.
No problem, no problem. Thank you.
Allahumma salli ala.
The reality is this. Please follow me. I have a lot to say and not enough time. This is the reality. There isn't a person in this room, from the alim on this side to the brothers on this side. There isn't a person in this room who's not going through some hardship. There isn't a person in this room who's not going through some struggles. And sometimes we feel like what I'm going through, nobody else is going through. Look around the community, you see this person, he seems happy, job is stable, nice big home, beautiful family, kids are coming. You think, you know what, I wish I had that life. You see another guy, he has his brothers here, his sisters here, his chacha is here, his taya is here, his whole family is here. I'm here by myself. On the day of Eid, when I'm sitting here having my biryani by myself, he's having his biryani with his entire khandan. I wish I had that life. We look to 10 different people, wishing that we had 10 different lives. What we don't realize is that while we are looking at other people wishing that we had their life, there's 10 other people looking at me, wishing that they had my life. The first thing about hardships is it's all perspective. It's all perspective. The very famous statement is what? The statement is what? That I complained I had no shoes. I complained I had no shoes until I met a man who had no feet. It's all relative. Shaykh Mutahir rahmatullah alayhi has a very beautiful philosophy on hardships. Before we get into that, let's understand the essence of this dunya. This dunya was not meant to give you sukoon. I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news. I don't mean to come from trying to give you bad news. This dunya was not meant for sukoon, itminan, absolutely not. This dunya was meant for a test, and a test. And the problem is that we don't understand that. The example I'll give you is very simple. Those of you in this audience who are university students, or have been there before. I remember in my first university, we had huge classes. We were one of 300 students, for example. In the first year classes, they're huge. The example is very simple. A first year university student enters his final examination week. And right now, you guys are running exams, right? Alhamdulillah. May Allah make you kamyab, inshallah. This man enters his first exam. Psychology 101, for example. 9 a.m. Now, to be able to have an exam for 300 people, you need a massive hall. Usually universities have a beautiful auditorium. Right? They host seminars there, conferences there, and they host exams there. Please follow me. It's a beautiful example. Not mine, don't worry. Don't have beautiful examples. Then the student enters the examination hall for the first time, first university, everything wows him. And for half an hour into the exam, for half an hour, he's wowed by the examination hall. It's like, oh, wow, this building is beautiful. Look at this building. Crown molding and beautiful chairs and stadium seating and iPad on every single seat, smart boards and beautiful windows and plush carpet and oh my God. And for half an hour, he's wowed by what? By the auditorium hall. Until the prof says, look, Mr. Jafri, you're not here to be wowed by the auditorium hall. You're here to write your exam. Sometimes our youth are wowed by this dunya. They're wowed by dunya. Oh my God, look at this dunya. Until someone comes and says, look, you're not here to be wowed by the dunya. You're here for a test and move on after that. So understanding the reality of this dunya is the first step in understanding our hardships. Let's not get caught up in this dunya. This dunya is here today, it won't be here tomorrow. This dunya was made to serve you, not the other way around. When Amir al-Mu'mineen says very beautifully, so long as a boat, oh this hadith is, so long as the boat is on the water, it will sail. The moment the water gets inside the boat, it sinks. So long as we are in the dunya, we're living no problem. The moment the dunya gets inside of us, we sink. Please be very careful. My youth, let's not get caught up in a nice dollar, crisp bills. You guys have nice colorful money here. Very crisp money. As the dollar value goes up, the size of the bill gets bigger, mashallah. Let's be careful. You're here for a maqsad. Move on and prepare yourself for your next journey. Do not believe this dunya to give you what it can't give you. A lot of us are looking for what? Sukoon, itminan. Maulana, sukoon nahi milta is dunya mein. Dhikri nahi milta sukoon mujhe. This dunya wasn't meant for sukoon, I'm sorry. Ala bi dhikri Allahi tatma'innu al-qulub. You want itminan? The dhikr of Allah. This is not the dunya for dhikr of Allah. The dhikr of Allah happens in the hereafter. So let's make sure that we understand, number one, fresh off the bat, this dunya has a purpose to it. And unfortunately, the higher you go up the ladder of spirituality, the more difficult the test will be. When our holy prophet Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, when he says that no other human being has gone through so much as I have gone, this is the ultimate makhluk of Allah. Allah had for him the ultimate test. That's number one. Number two, as I said, hardships are relative. What's a hardship for you is not a hardship for somebody else. But sometimes we think that Allah only picks on me. Everyone else He gives the world to, for some reason, He has some dushmani against me, na'udhu billah. Some enmity towards me. Some nafrat towards me for some reason. One person loses a job, within a day he finds another job. I lose a job and months go by. I can't find another job. Why, Allah, why? Let's understand, it's relative. I'll give you one, again, stories. That's all I have for you, stories. I'll give you a very simple example to understand how the hardships are relative. And I ask my older youth who are here today to really understand tonight's lecture. This will help you get through a little bit of what you guys are going through. And let me also repeat to all of you, as I said the very first or second day, to my parents especially, I think, with all due respect to all of you, I think as parents, you underestimate how difficult life is for your child in this part of the world. How difficult it is for them to block off shaitan, How difficult it is for them not to be drowned by the distractions of this world, for them to uphold their iman, for them to stay on the path of the Ahlul Bayt, for them to do all these things when there are 1,000 distractions around them. And for them to say no to every single one and choose the path of Allah is very difficult. It's an hour by hour test that your kids go through. And some days they'll lose and some days they won't. Inshallah, one day and then next week or the week after we'll have a discussion on Allah and Shaitan. You have to understand how Shaitan works for you to beat him and conquer him. That's not our talk tonight though. But my parents understand how difficult it is. A child goes to school for 9 hours, sometimes 6 hours. In that 6 hours there's constant bombardment from Shaitan. Now the story. I want you to picture a village. Everyone's here with me, inshallah? Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. The philosophy of hardships. If you understand the hardship, we'll submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What blocks our submission to Allah sometimes is the hardship itself. There's a village. In the village there are two people. One is a farmer and one is a family. The family has a daughter. The daughter is getting ready to get married. For 1 year now, she's been engaged. And she's been planning her wedding for a whole year. So the moment that she got, engaged, her batpaki, imamzame, whatever you want to call it, everything happened. After a year now comes the whole wedding. For 1 year now, she has planned her wedding to a T. She wants a beautiful outdoor wedding. Flowers and gardens and birds and everything. She made a guest list, she chose a caterer, she chose a decorator, she chose which alim to recite the nikah, she chose which qasidas, which manqabat, hopefully, all that kind of stuff. I hope. She chose which partition to go down the middle, I hope. And everything is planned. As she gets closer and closer to her wedding date, she gets more and more nervous. Until the day finally arrives. Now down the road from her is the farmer. He grows crops. His livelihood, everything that he uses to pay his bills and food on the table are his crops. His crops grows, he sells to the market, he makes money. The day that the wedding arrives, the bride wakes up very, very happy. It's my big day. For 1 year now, I've been planning this. Very excited, she jumps out of bed, she opens her curtains, and she sees what? She sees rain. She sees rain. Thunderstorm, lightning, and a complete downpour. She planned everything, she didn't plan the weather, unfortunately. Now she thinks for a second, oh my God, my entire day is ruined. My flowers are dead. My birds are gone, my guests won't come, my partition has fallen down the middle, everything. And she is devastated, depressed. What do I do now? Down the road is the farmer. Has not rained in the village for 6 months. For 6 months has not rained. He wakes up the exact same morning she does. Opens the exact same drapes and sees what? Sees the rain. She's devastated. He falls into sajda, says Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. One rainfall creates two different reactions. Hardships are relative. For one person it's a hardship, for another person it's not a hardship. Sometimes we believe what I'm going through is the end all and the be all. It's not sometimes. First philosophy. Second philosophy. Hardships gives meaning to life. And I'll use a very simple example. If there was a cardiologist in this room, you'll know that if God forbid, God forbid, God forbid, you wake up with chest pains one morning. And you run to the hospital. The first thing they'll do is what? They'll check your heart. So they'll strap on these stickers on you, they'll put these wires on you, they'll put you to what's called a heart monitor, and they'll wait for a reading. Please follow me. The reading that the mantra will give you is one of two. Either the reading is like this, up and down, up and down, up and down, or it's a straight line, God forbid. Ya Allah. Up and down, up and down, up and down, everything is okay. A straight line, inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Your heart's done. This heart monitor is telling us a very simple message. The ups and downs on the paper is a sign of life. A flat line is a sign of death. Ups and downs inside of our life, guys, is a sign of life for us. It means that what we're living. If you were to have a life which is completely carefree, not a single worry in the world, that's not a life that we call life. The Holy Prophet himself, for 3 days, if there wasn't some mushkil, some sakhti, some trouble in his life, he'd say, Ya Allah, did you forget about your Habib? He would equal the dhikr of Allah as hardships in his life. I'll give you an example that I often give this example. True story from my life, 2006. I drove one time from Dallas, Texas to San Jose, California. If you've been to the US, you know it's a 30-hour drive. I drove once there. Now I'm driving along and there are areas in that route where there is nothing. No abadi, no stores, no human beings. It's all desert. And a straight mile that goes for miles and miles and miles. No turns, no bumps, no curves, nothing. Not even a crack, a pothole, an animal, a tree, something, nothing. Nothing. We drive straight down. Then there are moments where I would hit the mountains. And the mountains, if you've ever driven the mountains before, you know that they're very, very curvy and left, right, left, right. On one side is the mountain, on one side is the drop. You gotta be very careful. You can't make a sharp turn. You can't turn here. You can't drive like your farm guy did today because we were late. You can't drive like that. Otherwise, it's a problem. Believe you and me, it was a tiring drive. And you would think that I pull over and rest a little bit. I didn't. I tried to be a champion and make the whole drive by myself. Those areas, those parts of my travel, when it was completely straight down the road, I'm driving and I'm doing this. And I'm on cruise control. So my foot's off the metal. I'm doing a little bit of steering. Why? I know for miles and miles ahead, there's nothing. Even if I steer a little bit this way, it's okay. There's no big truck coming this way saying, honk, nobody. On the mountain, however, I'm alert. I'm alert. I'm alert. For 1 second, I wouldn't let my eyes drop. If I let my eyes drop, either I crash the mountain or I drop. Inna lillahi. Life is no different. Life is a flat line for you. You become ghafil. You become heedless. You forget the dhikr of Allah. You don't understand what the purpose of your life is. As life gets curvy, left, right, left, right, left, right, you are on your game. You are alert. You know what's happening. You know your next move. You are very aware of what's happening. So let's not be so quick to say, I don't want these hardships. These hardships form who you are. These hardships give you life that you need. That's two. Let's go to number three. Before that, one now salat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Hardships bring us back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So long as everything is fine, everything is good, the musalla is folded up nicely there, the Quran is up somewhere, the highest shelf in the house possible, wrapped up in a beautiful silk clothing, tied so tight that not even you can open it. Up there. A little bit of the idea that your boss says, look, Mr. Jafri, we're going to downsize, so unfortunately we don't have a job for you. So for Friday is the last day. Now you grab the ladder, you climb up, you grab the Quran, you untie the thing, and now the musalla comes out, the tasbih comes out, the beard comes out, the hijab comes out, Allah comes out, our mouths come out, text message, yaar, hamari dua karo yaar, all these things come out. Everything comes out, one by one by one by one. Now all of a sudden, we can't think of anybody but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the moment that we get the call by IBM saying, yes, you're hired, back up on the shelf again. That's how we are. That's how we are. That's how we all are. And who knows us better than we do? Our Creator knows us better than we do. So literally he says, if it takes the fact that I need to put a little bit of a hardship on your path to bring you back to me, that's what I'll do. I'm driving from Dallas, miles ahead, and I'm doing this. And for a moment now, I hit a little bit of a crack in the road, so my car starts to steer. And now I'm up. I'm awake now. Okay, I got the message. I'm up. Allah says the exact same thing. The moment we try to enter that ghaflat area of our life, Allah says, oh yes, here's a hardship. Now, make a U-turn and come back to me. It's very important that we understand that sometimes hardships are the avenue back to our Creator. I wish it was the case that when things are going well, we remember Him. The reality is that when things are going bad, that's when we remember Him. It's crucial that we understand. We have a hadith by Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam. He says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves it when His creation remembers Him when things are good. Because then He has promised that He will remember you when things are bad in your life. It's vital, it's crucial that we understand this. And the most difficult thing to do is while you're in the eye of that storm, right in the middle of that difficulty, for you to remember the fact that this is an avenue back towards Allah. It's very hard to do that. And so many of our youth ask amazing questions. They ask us that, how do I know? Sallu ala Muhammad. How do I know if this is a test from Allah or it's shaitan pulling me towards Him? It's a great question. It's a beautiful question. And alhamdulillah, for people like me, this question was already asked to the Ahlul Bayt. So I don't have to think anymore. I grab the hadith and I tell them. An individual asked me the exact same question. Look at the response of our Maulana. He says, if that hardship leads you away from Allah, it's from shaitan. If that hardship leads you towards Allah, it's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So meaning sometimes you won't know until you are done that hardship. Where am I at this moment? Where have I gotten at this moment? Am I further away from Allah or am I not away from Allah? What's going on? And that's how we know the source of my hardship is either shaitan or it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But needless to say, every hardship is an avenue, an opportunity for us to go back to Allah. The problem is, the moment that our life gets a little bit difficult, we run from Allah. Allah says, no, I put that there for you to run towards me, not run from me. Because sometimes we have this idea that my iman is firm, I'm good. I'm 30, 35, 40, 50 years old. I've been a Shia all my life. My iman is rock solid. Nothing can shake me. And we take our iman for granted. And we let our guard down. Thinking for a moment, shaitan can't get to me, my nafs can't get to me, no matter what happens. I'm done my Javani. There's no way shaitan can pull me off the path now. I have a force field. He comes and he bounces right back. No worries. Let's be careful. Rumi has a very beautiful story in his Masnavi. Of who? Of the snake catcher. If you know who Rumi is, you know that he uses poetry to convey Quranic messages. He's known as Maulana in Arabic, in Iran. Rumi. What's the story? It's a very beautiful one. Before that, go on Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala. He says there was a snake catcher in a village. And he wasn't a very good snake catcher. Had no respect amongst the snake catchers. And he wanted to find some way for him to gain respect of the villagers. One day in the dead of winter, he goes on his journey up the mountains thinking about what to do. How do I earn my respect? How do I make myself better? He comes across a python in the mountains. Lying there motionless. He thinks, oh my God. If I can drag this python back to the center of the village, announce that I caught this python, I'll be the man. Grabs a python, drags it to the center of the village, announces to the village people that all hail me, I am the best snake catcher in the village. Look at what I caught, a python. They were amazed. Oh my God. You caught a python? Oh my God, that's it. You are the best snake catcher in our village. And just as he was enjoying the accolades, the clouds begin to part. The sun comes beaming down and begins to strike itself on the python. And the python begins to melt. Now the python isn't dead, the python was frozen. You know where this is going. The python now melts, comes to life, and the first person it devours is a snake catcher. Eats a snake catcher whole. Rumi says that python sometimes for us is our nafs. We believe it to be frozen, lifeless. It's been 60 years, I've conquered my nafs, now it's dead, it's not going anywhere. And then the clouds part and the sun of our shahwa and desires comes shining through and gives life to that nafs that we thought was dead. And the first thing that nafs devours is us and us alone. Why? We've allowed our guard to go down for a moment. A lot of times my youth ask me, how do we fight shaitan? How do we fight shaitan? First of all, don't put yourself in a position to fight shaitan. Avoid it. You know, Maulana, my friends are going to the club downtown, but I'm going to wait outside in the parking lot. Very nice. Very good. Good for you. The music is so loud. I've heard. I've never been there before. I've heard. I haven't. It's outside so loud that you can hear everything. And while you're waiting outside for your friends, a song comes on that you've loved since you were 15 years old, and you find yourself now in the middle of the dance floor. Why? Because you put yourself in that position. Well, I'm going to watch this Indian movie, but I'm going to forward the songs. Yes, mashallah, forward the songs. Good. Don't put yourself in that position to begin with. Because when hardships come about, and the very first thing that ends up happening is that your iman begins to be affected. In summary, we have to understand that submissiveness of Allah, ubudiyat of Allah, subservience of Allah, is a direct result of how we handle our hardships. If every hardship that comes across on our path, we use that to go back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we will be somewhere else right now today. So understanding three things. Number one, hardships are relative. Remember, I complained I had no shoes until I met a man who had no feet. Relative, it's all relative. Number two, the heart monitor. It's a sign of life. Number three, it brings us back towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And lastly, at number four, it keeps our iman and our faith fresh and taza. Doesn't allow us to think for a moment that everything is okay, I'm ready for heaven now. Wait a second now, hold on. You need to do a little bit more work, inshallah. This comes a little bit more hope. And like I mentioned a few nights ago, the biggest thing that sometimes is affecting your kids is hopelessness. They don't believe they can fight shaitan. They don't believe they can be of the pious ones in this society. And they've convinced themselves that I cannot conquer shaitan, so I'll simply submit to shaitan. And that's the most dangerous thing that we could do. We have to make a difference between worship and submission. Iblis worshipped Allah for 4,000 years. One hukm from Allah to do sajda to Adam, and he denied Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah took that rejection to be bigger than his 4,000 years of worship. So make a distinction between worship and ubudiyat. One is ibadat, one is ubudiyat. One is worship, one is subservience to Allah. Part of subservience to Allah is the idea that no matter how hard the hardship is, labbaik ya Allah, labbaik. Because we use that to go back to Him altogether. We ask you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to inspire us in this month of Ramadan to become better people, inshallah. We ask you, Allah, to forgive our sins, the sins of our parents, inshallah. We ask you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to weaken the hands of the enemies of Islam, to strengthen the mustaza'afin all over the world. And finally, Allah, we ask you to allow us to witness the zuhur of Imam al-Zamana and to be beside him as his ashab when he comes, inshallah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.